Can you guess what time it is? It's Wuthering Waves Glazing Hour! Bow, 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 bow! Subscribe.
What is up, YouTube? I was just chilling and I saw a tweet from my homie Tectone. The big ball man, or sorry, let me just say, Ek-Own, because no one's allowed to say his name because he will find you and he will put you on blast.
You're supposed to say T-word. You have to say T-word, and you also really shouldn't call him your friend. You cannot admit that you're actually friends with him, because then you're automatically a horrendous person. But yeah, T-word, Voldemort, don't say the name. And if you do need to put like a content warning before it. Like you need to do trigger warning, T** tone. Otherwise, he'll come for you, and so will the mob of goons.
I saw a tweet that he posted, and it caught my eye a lot, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit in a bit of a video format. The tweet the tweet in question is essentially talking or showing a graph between Wuthering Waves, Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact. And Genshin Impact, boom, 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 bang, 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 you know, high up.
Want to point out that Genshin Impact is on a slow decline. If you'll notice, the overall trend of this is downward, which I'm into. And we also see Honkai Star Rail had a bit of a dip, and I'm guessing around Penacony is when it started picking back up. But Wuthering Waves looking very good in poggers.
Honkai Star Rail in the middle, Wuthering Waves on the bottom, but on the rise. Just like my YouTube channel and my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TheRoy, by the way.
And mine as well, twitch.tv/hex_juice. I can't get rid of the underscore. It's not my choice. But the person who has HexJuice no underscore still uses their account, and therefore Twitch won't give it to me.
I think this graph is really interesting because a lot of people, we already all know about Kuro games. And I think it's gonna blow up a lot quicker than people realize, and people can give it credit for, because Hoyo games and Genshin, you know, they obviously had the first the first Hoyo game Genshin, well, the first big Hoyo game Genshin had the COVID buff, and you know, we all know how that went. That shit blew up. It is now a global game and
very much
the biggest gacha, and you know, obviously anything they make after that is gonna pop off just for sheer size of players that they have access to. And a lot of people.
That is very, very true. I also think that I want to give credit to a lot of content creators or newer content creators right now who have really jumped on making Wuthering Waves content and really, like, I mean, honestly, kind of flooding the algorithm with woo-wah content. Because part of why the blow up is getting so much higher is because there are so many people pumping out like pretty decent, like good quality content for Wuthering Waves. And so it's really increasing the hype a lot. Wuthering Waves is also really picked up on marketing, which I'm very happy about. I'm glad I was wrong on that. I'm really, really happy for the number of people that have really jumped on trying to make Wuthering Waves content, Wuthering Wave guides. Like, it's already going to be in the algorithm. It really, 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 really helps it. And so I'm really happy. And that's only going to get bigger and bigger once the game actually releases. So I'm really, I guess, appreciative of the community for making so much cool content, because that's really cool.
People find it hard to believe that a game like Wuthering Waves, made by, you know, Kuro Games, which me personally, I didn't hear about until Punishing Grey Raven, which was also a pretty recent game, but they did an absolute dog-ass job with advertising.
Dog shit, not dog ass.
So that didn't really get anywhere, but the combat's really good, and the skins are super hot, and it's a pretty good game overall.
Do you guys know if Wuthering Waves is planning on doing skins? Because I really hope so. I would love if they had nice skins. I just do hope that they're not like skin gotcha. I would much rather it be that I could pay for a skin if the game is already a gotcha game. I hope they make skins, because PGR has fantastic skins. They look super, super nice.
Never got any advertising. No one knew about it. But I think Kuro Games is starting to get a foothold in the gotcha space. And people are starting to notice that Kuro Games makes amazing games. And they're sort of, not directly, but they're essentially just Genshin's competitor. Well, they're directly Genshin's competitor, but they're not going to say it themselves straight up. But no one is expecting Kuro Games to essentially match the level that Genshin and Honkai Star Rail have been at. I mean, the graph sort of showed us that people are starting to take a lot of interest in it. And with Genshin sort of getting complacent, like a big old fat piggy in its pen, just eating food all day, every day with no competition whatsoever.
Like, let's be real. It's been getting pretty crazy with Genshin. It's been 6 months without any like meaningful content added to the game, that is like the picture perfect example of complacency. It's really bad.
They're starting to, get lazy. And they only just now added some modicum of endgame only when Wuthering Waves was released. So I think they're starting to feel the heat. I will say,
you know what? I don't know if they are. I think maybe they'll feel heat for their other games, not necessarily for Genshin, because a lot of people, I think, genuinely have put so much time and money into Genshin that they will just always be grateful for whatever slop they spoon out to them. Because the reality is like they put out 6 months of dead patches, and there are people on Reddit in the Genshin subreddit being like, oh my god, I'm so glad that they've put out all these dead patches. I can catch up on building my characters, which is clinically insane. I think thinking of it as a competition is more beneficial in terms of Wuthering Waves, because in order to be competitive, they will have to kind of Genshin could never everything. So they do have to listen. They do have to make changes when they're necessary. They do need to improve systems when there's a problem. And most of all, they need to listen to the community. Yes, Genshin competition from Wuthering Waves, sure, whatever. I don't really care. I'm not going to play Genshin, even if they did start to fix the game. I would never play it. However, I want Wuthering Waves to see themselves as competition to Genshin, because that means they need to be doing the absolute most all the time so that it can be competitive. That's where I think that competition lies, like where that's an important point.
Honkai Star Rail's latest event was the most dog-ass event I've played probably in any gacha of all time almost. I
think that's a very dangerous thing to say. And I also don't really necessarily want to express this opinion. Which event are you talking about? Because I don't want to shoot shots at something that he's not shooting shots on, because the film one is really bad. I have not even played it. I have not finished the story event for 2.2 because they were yapping so much. And like I was interested in the story, but the amount of dialogue bloat was so severe that like I kind of just gave up on it because I couldn't take it anymore. I mean, that bartending event was absolute shit. But I've not tried the new event, so I will take your word for it. But I think that would mean then that there's 2 events in a row that have been complete ass.
The latest event is really bad, and that might be responsible for this little dip right here, which would make sense. Me personally, I almost wanted to quit the game. No, I'm just joking. It was pretty bad, but I didn't want to quit the game, but it was pretty bad. But with Genshin and Honkai Star Rail sort of being like,
I want to know which event it was.
Let's play.
We're gonna have like mad sweaty gay sex when it comes out. We're probably like, yeah. Oh wait. I meant the one where you do the storyboard.
Storyboard? Okay. That's the film one.
That's the film one from 2.2? Yeah, the film one.
Okay, all right. I wanted to know what he was talking about so bad. So it was, in fact, the film one that he was complaining about. I don't have any skin in that game because I couldn't even get through the 2.2 story to get to that. I believe that people said that the payoff of the 2.2 story was really, really good, but the dialogue bloat was very severe, and I had to take a break from it. Though I will finish it. I do need to finish that before Wuwa comes out.
Well, Star Rail's still new. It's still on the rise. Still an amazing game. I love Honkai so much. But Genshin's been, obviously, like I said, getting lazy. So Kuro taking advantage of that, I think, is super smart, and I think the game's gonna pop off. So much. And I'm being hopeful, but I think that Kuro Games and Wuthering Waves has the opportunity to explode faster than anyone can realize, just like me when I'm pumping your mom. But that
was unnecessary as all hell. We're just sneaking in disrespect during like a completely chill video about Wuthering Waves' potential, just disrespecting our mothers. My God. Otherwise, I do agree that I think Wuthering Waves, especially after seeing how many people are really, really jumping on Wuthering Waves in the last couple of weeks, I think Wuthering Waves has a lot more potential than even I gave it credit for like that initial blow up. Because I've said on stream before that I thought it was going to be more of a grower and less of a shower. It's looking pretty big right now, so we'll have to see.
I think they have the potential to do better for a time than Honkai Star Rail, and maybe even Genshin. I think that would be insane, and I think that would completely flip the gacha space on its head, because that would make the god Hoyoverse think twice about, maybe this dog-ass update shouldn't get released. Maybe
dog shit, and it's not. It's really not, because the problem is, even in Honkai Star Rail, people will continue to spend that money and be uncritical. Even in the bartending event, which like the vast majority of people agreed that bartending event was really bloated and crappy, other than the actual drinks mixing part of it. And yet there were still people who would defend it and say that it was good and say that there was a story reason for it to take like 5 hours. Honkai Star Rail has been respecting players' time less and less. I know that we're not really allowed to be critical of Honkai Star Rail, which is why I'm kind of talking about this. In my opinion, the last couple of updates have shown a distinct disrespect for players' time with the amount of dialogue bloat that has been in the story and in the game, in the events. And I'm not saying that the story was bad for 2.2. I'm saying that it was severely dialogue bloated and the presentation of the story was not very good. It was very hard to stay engaged in the story when they were spending 1,000 words to describe something that could have been explained in about 2 sentences. And my thing is like, because people will cope so hard for Hoyoverse like that, no matter what, even if Honkai Star Rail really started circling the drain, I genuinely don't believe that people will be capable of being critical of the game, which I'm not saying is currently happening. I'm just saying that I don't think people are going to be capable of actually being critical, because it's Hoyoverse and they spent a lot of money and they've spent a lot of time and they have that sunken cost fallacy.
Players are sick of picking mints. Well, I'm not. Me personally, I love picking mint. They are sick of all these awful events, and Kuro Games is here. Save us, Kuro Games! They are here to release us from the prison that is the Genshin Hoyoverse shackles. That awful fucking game. And Kuro Games is... they're here for us, and they've been proven to listen to the community, and they've done a lot of things that Hoyoverse hasn't had, which I think the potential, this could be a whole video in and of itself, but the potential for skins in Wuthering Waves is going to be great. And so I think the fact that they do so many things that Hoyoverse doesn't, and that Hoyoverse won't do, and that they're going to force Hoyoverse to do, because Hoyoverse has to change in some way, or else they're just not going to keep up with Kuro Games. And
I don't think that is going to happen for a very long time. I maybe that's just like straight up doom posting about Hoyoverse. In my opinion, I do not think that will force Hoyoverse to do anything or change anything. Because again, while they might lose a small amount of players to Wuthering Waves, like actually lose, where they don't play Genshin anymore, or they don't play Honkai or whatever, the reality is those are going to be people who are already disillusioned to a certain extent anyways. So there's not a lot that is going to be lost. And most people who have spent like thousands of dollars or hundreds of hours or whatever on these games are not going to be willing to leave or stop spending money, because they're already in the hole. So I don't think it'll force Genshin Hoyoverse to do anything. All I want is that competition to make Woo-Wah be the best that it can be.
And so I'm really stoked for Kuro Games to shake up the whole market, and with all that good and bad publicity on them, you know, because all the Kuro stands, you know, me, amongst other people. Well, I wouldn't consider myself a Kuro stan. I'm a good game stan. With all the eyes on Kuro Games, for better or for worse, that's a lot of fucking publicity. It's a lot of eyes, a lot of clicks, a lot of numbers, a lot of shit for advertisers to look at, a lot of shit for new people trying to play the new popular hip game to look at. I mean, shit might even go mainstream. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
I doubt that, because the aesthetic of Kuro Games does niche it a bit. Not saying it's bad. It's more niche of an aesthetic for Wuthering Waves. That being said, if that did happen, I'd be very, very happy. They've definitely improved it. I really like the way Wuthering Waves looks, actually. But I do still think that the aesthetic of Wuthering Waves has potential to niche the game more than necessary, but I could be completely off base with that, and I will be perfectly happy. But the post-apocalyptic thing just doesn't appeal to everyone, and it's more mature. People are children. They don't have brain cells.
It is the kind of game where if you're not into gacha games, it has enough gameplay to where someone who's not normally in the gacha space could be like, oh, it's a lot of cool gameplay. I'm down to play it. I like some of the characters. Calcharo's badass. But then they see Verena and then they quit the game because Verena's awful. And
I just don't like her leg warmers. That's kind of it. I don't like her leg warmers, and I don't like that she looks like a toilet paper roll. She's just a cylinder with like legs and arms and a little headband. And I just don't like the way that she looks at all.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And what I'm specifically stoked for is how the whole gacha space and future gacha games are essentially going to be forced. It just takes the bar from and sets it to hallelujah.
True.
And all these new games coming out are going to have to try and compete with that. And I think that's great. I think that's amazing. So it'll turn.
I think also a really good benefit of more games being put out more similar to Genshin is that it might make it more appealing for developers to invest into games more like Genshin, because I think that most likely a lot of people didn't necessarily want to be like the first one to be so close to Genshin's, like the genre that Genshin is, because I don't want to be like the first Genshin clone. But I'm hoping that it means that more people will be willing to explore this type of gameplay, because I think it has so much potential for what it could be. And so I hope that means that the industry just starts being more inventive with gacha games, because if we're going to be honest with each other, gacha games are pretty in the box about how they make their games, about how they design their games. And so I'm hoping that Kuro Games having success means that more developers will try more innovative strategies and more innovative game design elements, and I think it'll be really cool.
To essentially like a blue lock space, which I'm really excited for. And with so many changes coming to the gacha space, well, changes that will come to the gacha space, a lot of people tend to think, oh man, the Hoyoverse games are gonna have to change. But I'm kind of thinking also into the future, because with all these changes that Hoyoverse are going to have to make, any new game that comes into the space is going to have to match Kuro Games' energy. You know, you can't just come into the gacha space and be like a wet board of a game.
That's true.
And, well, you can if you have gigantic titties and ass. So, I mean, I guess I'm already a point proven wrong, my bad. But getting a new game into the space is going to be more difficult now, because Kuro Games is setting the bar up really high. They're listening to the community. I'm just really hoping that Kuro Games doesn't also get lazy. I mean, everyone does at some point. All things come to an end. But I'm really stoked for what Kuro Games is going to do this space, and I think it's only going to be for the better. Unless Wuthering Waves is complete dog shit on launch, which I personally will be
He finally said dog shit instead of dog ass. I do agree. I think that no matter what, even if it doesn't do anything to Hoyoverse, which again, I very much doubt, because the piggies will eat their slop. They don't actually really care. I do hope that overall in the industry, it encourages gacha games to have more innovative, creative strategies, building games around the gacha system, and explore more and make more fully fleshed out games. Because the reality about most gacha games is they're kind of meant to have that like big burst of content where you're playing through the game and stuff, and then it's supposed to be sort of a daily keeping up with things. And there's a lot more that can be done with gacha, but most of them are kind of the same sort of game reskinned a lot of the time outside of like Hoyoverse and Kuro Games. But I'm hoping that overall that the industry starts making more interesting game concepts if it's proven that they can succeed within gacha, because that's what competition is for. It's supposed to force the competition or force the industry to continue developing and innovating over time. That's why monopolies are bad in capitalism, because the monopoly stagnates innovation and creativity within that industry. So I'm really hoping overall that in the future, it just makes gacha games better as a whole, not so much Hoyoverse specifically, because I think that's still part of Hoyoverse copium to be like, oh, well, if Wuthering Waves is good, then they'll finally fix Genshin, they'll finally fix their stuff, Hoyo will finally be better. I don't really care about none of that. I'm not coping about Hoyoverse. I think that no matter what, it's always kind of going to go the same way, but I do want different companies to do different things, making better shit.
Absolutely devastated if that's the case. Now, to wrap it all up, what I essentially want to say is Kuro Games is likely going to be bigger than anyone else thinks. I think Genshin is going to have to adapt. I think Honkai's probably they're going to have to adapt. I mean, they're not really the same game genre. You know what I'm saying? They're not really the same game genre, but a good gacha game is a good gacha game. It's going to make everything else change and flip on its head. Kuro Games is, I'm hoping, going to kill it, and all future gacha games are also going to have to adapt. I mean, shit, maybe there's Azure Permilia. I mean, shit, Azure Permilia. If Kuro Games, if Wuthering Waves is this good, Azure Permilia might even have to make some changes. The shit, the game ain't even out yet.
I'm really excited for Azure Permilia. I think that game looks so cool. I think they've said that they're not making any male gacha characters, which I don't love. I know that male gacha characters are never as popular, but it kind of makes me sad. But I am very, very, very excited for Azure Permilia. It looks really, really good from whatever gameplay they've released.
I mean, shit, Azure Permilia is going to be better when it releases because Kuro Games is so goddamn good. And you can say glazing, you can say grinding. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am riding. Wuthering Waves gonna be good as hell.
I am also dick riding and glazing Wuthering Waves. That's why I start the videos out like that. You're not insulting me by saying that. I'll come out of the closet and say it. I am dick riding Kuro Games really hard right now.
I'm just trying to say all future games are going to have to match this energy somehow.
100%.
And I'm really excited for what it's doing in the gacha space.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it. Love y'all.
I love you, Laro. Thank you so much for the video. But yeah, I do agree with most of his points. My one thing is that I just don't necessarily entirely agree that this is going to make Hoyoverse do anything. Even if it should make them do something, I'm not sure that it will, because so many people are willing to accept slop from Hoyoverse. And I just don't have a lot of faith that it's going to make them want any changes. Because realistically, if that were true, all of the changes they made in Honkai Star Rail that people were really excited about would have hypothetically made them change those things in Genshin as well, and then they didn't. So I just don't know that Hoyoverse is that interested in actually innovating. I think they've got their formula and they've got their piggies, and they will continue giving them slop. But overall, for the industry, having more competition is objectively a good thing, and I'm very excited for that. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Say goodbye to YouTube, Twitch chat. Goodbye! 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 Goodbye!